All right, guys, we are live again. Good morning. Good to see everyone today. How you doing, Christine and Nuala?
Doing great. How are you, Tina and Nuala?
Great,
Amazing.
great, great. Good to be here.
Yeah, I just always learn so much from both of you every time we do these, and they always say those who do the work do the learning. So I highly
Mhm.
recommend every leader do a podcast because it's just amazing. And one of those things that we've been discussing, and I'm so glad you brought it up, Nuala, is blind spots as a leader. And I think sometimes we just keep going through our day with our tasks and don't even think about what blind spots we might have. And we think we're all that. And this like little tool that we're going to share with all of you for the next actually 6 weeks. This is going to be a 6 week series because it's so deep and so rich and about blind spots and what are blind spots? Blind spots are when your intentions and your impact don't match.
Mhm.
Oh, that's so
Right?
good. Yeah.
So good. And so I was thinking about this and I put together an assessment for all of my leaders in my schools and my salons. And so far we've had our top two salon or school owners take this assessment as well as myself. And I have to be honest, I was almost afraid to even ask them to give me feedback to assess me. Because my intention is it's a 5 on all of them, right? But my actual impact, they're probably going to grade me at a 2 or a 3. And so I was like, I don't even know if I want to hear that or see that. And I started thinking about my team, like maybe they don't want to hear it or see it yet either. You have to really be prepared to kind of get that feedback too. And so today we're going to really talk about communication. And I promise you, we will give you this assessment so you can take it at the end of the 6 week series. But you really want to do this deep dive with us as we continue to roll through this. But the first one that we're going to talk about is the blind spot of communication. And right, we always think that we're communicating, and then we ask our team, and they're like, no, you're not. You're not
Mm.
communicating. So I'll read these questions and you can actually assess yourself if you have some paper and you can write down. But right now, if you think about these questions, there's four of them. And then Nuala and I and Christine are going to do a little deep dive in this too. But grade yourself a 1, which is never, a 2 if it's rarely, 3 if it's sometimes, 4 often, and 5 consistently. Right? So I'm like thinking, do I have any consistency ones? It's interesting as I look through this. Number 1 is I communicate expectations clearly and specifically. Grade yourself on that one. And then number 2, team members rarely seem confused about priorities or goals. Then number 3, I adjust my communication style to meet the needs of different people. And then 4, I ask others to repeat key takeaways to ensure understanding. I don't know about you two, but the one actually that I put on my paper that I really want to focus on right now is asking others to repeat key takeaways to ensure understanding. The last one I just spoke about because I graded myself at probably a 1,
Yeah.
1.5. And I started thinking about that because, and I was talking to my two key leaders, you guys, and we've all said how awkward it seemed to ask people to repeat what I said. And so I tried it on yesterday. I was doing our protege meeting. We do leadership meetings every single month with our brand new protege in our salons. And I did this with one of them. And I said, well, why don't you just repeat back to me what you think I said or what takeaway that you had from it? And it wasn't awkward at all. I just kind of came naturally. But thank God I had done this work to do it because it brought out something out of this team player that she's been holding in since she started working for us, which
Ooh.
was close to 6 months ago, you guys. And it was unbelievable just by asking her to do that. And it created that safety and trust in that moment. And I thought, okay, I got this. And so, Christine, how about you? Like when it comes to any of those four areas on communication, what's the areas that you're working on and towards?
I think mine are the communicate expectations clearly and specifically,
Mm,
because recently we had a team meeting and I think that people are more confused than I thought they were into what the expectations are. And in my mind, because I've done them so many times, I have done them so many times and I have reviewed them so many times and I have created it, handbook with other teams and other people that used to be there. In my head, I'm thinking that people are well aware. And so I think the blind spot for me was you can't communicate enough the DNA and the things and the expectations and the values and all the things that you want within your company and your walls. You may think for me, I may have thought I was communicating, but in reality, their perception is I'm not. And so that is the reality. And
Mm,
so that was mine. And I think I'm not great at specifics. I know this about myself. That is my number one blind spot is getting specifics and being specific. I could be top view and very vague. And so I have to almost force myself in
yeah.
this area.
Yeah. It's almost like as simple as a system of closing the salon. If it's not step by step in writing, and then it's not a system, right? If it's not written down, it's not a system. And so that's the hardest part for us because people might say, well, it's in my head, of how to close. I'm like, well, Susie did that just started. She doesn't know what's in your head, And so it's just those simple little things. And it's hard. And I hear that. I don't know about you, Christine or Nuala, but I hear so much from leaders. I told them,
I
I don't know
think
why they're not
oh
too,
yeah,
listening.
yeah.
Tina, I think too, is they forget what they agreed upon.
Of course, of
What do
course.
you mean by
Yeah,
they
yeah.
forget what they agreed
So,
upon?
Like
so
a
maybe
covenant.
in their hiring process, or they're past this point of doing things, and um, maybe when they came on board, you explain the culture and what you want to see, and how how it lives within the walls. And they agreed upon, yes, this is the culture that I want to be part of. But then if it's not enforced and it's not clear and the expectation isn't followed through on a daily basis,
Yeah,
then they forget that's how we hold them accountable based on what they agree upon the standard to be, right? I mean, that is our only way of holding them accountable and holding ourselves accountable.
Right. And then looking at the human guy site, right? We only remember 20% of what we're told the first time. And I
Yeah.
think that's where
Hmm.
giving our new employees grace, like, well, they agreed, like, "Ugh, I've done this, right? Well, you signed the handbook. I was a big handbook policy
once a
queen,
year.
right? Yeah, we're clear.
This
And
is
then,
exactly what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
it's just,
And then
it's
it's
not
like,
one and done, right?
and then now
Yeah,
understanding human behavior, we know they have to hear it, see it. So it has to be said several times, right? In the context of examples and
Yeah.
everything like that. And I definitely think that's a huge blind spot. I love that you spoke about that, Christine, because I think, because I know I've said it, I already, I've already told them when the real question is, do they understand it clearly enough to act on it? Right?
And do they understand how their behavior is impacting the culture and the standard of what it is and how? Like you know what I mean? Like, are you as a leader being able to ask the question specifically enough that they tie it together of like,
Correct.
oh,
Yeah.
I see how that really has a negative impact on our standard.
Yeah.
They may like we've been talking about awareness these last couple of weeks, and this is bringing the awareness to people. It's helping them to see things that they don't see, right? Just in this communication.
yeah,
Yeah. And that's why last week when I did that small teaching on disc, that's why I was like, okay, I think really blind spots because adjusting my communication style to meet the needs of different people, Tina, was huge for me. So that was when I really fell in love with becoming aware of how I sounded. And I'm still working on that. And that's what I'm doing with a lot of young leaders at the moment, young salon owners like that are going through this, well, they say, like you just said, Christine, they say this when they really mean that. Why don't they tell me the truth, right? You started that off, Tina, by saying a new employee had a question for 6 months,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So it's
Too
like,
afraid. She didn't
yeah,
want to
where did we
step on
drop the
toes.
yeah, where did we drop the ball in
Yep.
communication? And it's like meeting the style, and we have all these tools, and
Hmm.
I've been guilty of this, is I use the tool and then I put it on the shelf, right? I don't use it.
Yeah.
So it's like we have all these great bells and whistles and, you know, all of this, but the communication piece is huge. And that goes into everything, how we communicate with our clients. And I loved that you brought, Tina, up the first one about having them repeat back to you, because as a young hairdresser, I was also a teacher, it was automatically where I was working. So that would be something that was a question. But then,
Hmm.
like, we'd always ask the apprentices, so what did you hear? You know, is it a toner and an N7 or an N1, right? Makes a big difference. Repeat back to me what you heard. But then when I became an owner, I found it challenging to ask that question because I was in a different position.
Yeah.
Mm,
So
Yeah.
it's as you grow, you may have these skill sets now, but as you grow, like making yourself aware, like, why am I holding back?
yeah.
Yeah, that's so
Mhm.
good. And so on all these four questions here, these four statements, blind spots, Nuala, which one are you working on and towards?
I'm definitely working on number three.
Yeah.
Continue, like that's kind of a deep focus for me this year.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I work remotely with somebody, and number two is also very important at the moment because I think the goals and the priorities are clear. And I go back and things aren't done. I'm like, where did you get it wrong? But meaning, where was I unclear about my expectations? But number three for me is my biggest one. And I think with this list, Tina, if it kind of moves around as you're growing and as you become aware. So, I mean, you might get really good on communicating expectations clearly and specifically. But then as the pressures come in, and that's where we love having DISC in, understanding how you work under pressure.
Yeah.
Say for example, that new employee that you guys brought in, maybe you were all so busy that something slipped through the cracks. So it's like, where did we slip and fall in our communication to our employees? I wasn't that graceful in the beginning, but number three is definitely what I'm working on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so powerful. I love that you brought that up. So number two was team members rarely seem confused about priorities or goals. And then I adjust my communication style to meet the needs of different people. And it went back to, so we use the book called Ideal Team Player in our salons. And so how do we hire? You have to be humble, hungry, and smart. And so our partners, our salon partners said, okay, when you're doing your protege leadership meeting, can you guys really hit hard on hunger? And I'm hearing this from all salon owners across the nation. It's just like they can't figure out how to motivate, right, these team members. And so I'm not there yet. I don't know, but I went back into the book and we shared some of the things from the book, and it really hit home with every single one of them. And that's when we started to like really do a deep dive into hunger with them. And you know what? It's interesting because Nuala, what you're bringing up is exactly what happened on the call yesterday. So we basically were talking about I go above and beyond my job description. And so we actually have job descriptions. And I notice when I coach salon owners, they don't have job descriptions. So how can you be clear, right? If you don't have something written down. So I always know that if it's not written down, that it's not a system. So we uncovered another area, like I said earlier, that wasn't written down. There wasn't a written down system. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. And that's really my purpose of being the person to meet with the protege, because they help me to uncover the systems that aren't in writing, because the rest of the team's been there, 10 years. And so they just know it in their head they don't even have to look at the paper anymore, right? And so looking at that, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so I'm just curious from both of you, like what your experience has been, not only in your business with job descriptions and helping to train people to go above and beyond. And here's the big discovery. They're like, well, I just wait to be told what to do.
Mm.
And so we were trying to push them. And I said, I'm going to challenge you guys to think like a CEO, to think like the owner of this business, because we don't hire just employees, we hire future partners. And we want you to think like an owner. What would you change in the business if you were the owner? And so that is hunger. That's thinking outside the box. And so I think their mind was blown. I don't think anyone's ever suggested this to any of the protege. And I think they're like, I don't have to wait to be told. It
Mm.
was, I don't know about both of you, but Christine, what experience have you had with that, especially when it comes to hunger?
Well, I think this is an interesting topic because it's something that I'm doing right now is I am going back through my job descriptions, but one of the things that I'm doing is I'm taking our values of what my values are in our company values, and I'm putting them in behaviors. How do our values translate into behaviors
Mhm.
and that we want to see, and making that as part of the description of the job. So not only is it a job description of an
Love it.
overview, but there's layers underneath that say, what we want to see and the behaviors that we want to see and how they align with our values, so that this way when we do hold people accountable and they hold us as leaders accountable, that we know that they're coming directly from our values. So
Yeah.
our value, one of our values is character and how you show up, and if you follow through, with what you say. So if that is part of our value, then how is that happening in our job descriptions, and how is that happening in our everyday world? And I feel like the only way to make it happen in our everyday world is if they understand how their behavior directly impacts. Because mm, I think the mistake that I was making, and I learned this a lot in NLP, but I think the mistake that I was making is I was focused on results, and results are too late.
Yeah.
They're already
But
done. So when you
yeah.
look at somebody's productivity, the productivity is already finished. Their pre-book is already done. So if you say, I need you to get from 40 to 50% pre-book, how? What behaviors do I have to do on a daily basis that are going to drive that pre-booking? And so for me, I think that when I was talking about numbers, this is where I was unclear,
Yeah.
because they didn't really know how do I shift that. They almost felt like it was unattainable, and
Mhm.
it wasn't. We'll never get there. It's just a pie in the sky, goal.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, so I'm trying to be more specific with behaviors of how they impact our
Wow.
values.
Mind blown, girl. Mind blown. This is so good. How about you, Nuala?
Yeah, well, I feel that when Christine was talking about that, it is attitude, right? So there's when they come in, and then we feel that the attitude shifts, right? So the
Mhm.
person's attitude shifts. So they weren't like that the day I hired them. And then it definitely always falls around clarity. I can't even expand upon what Christine's talking about. I think that is just pure gold. If you can match your values with the behaviors you want to see, so people have real examples. Because I think sometimes as business owners, we get so busy with the numbers that we
Yeah.
forget that these people, like a lot of times, haven't been exposed to a healthy working environment, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
knowing what that looks like. So I love
Yeah.
that. I can't even expand upon that, Christine.
No,
And
yeah.
I
So
want to
good.
I want to add something, because I think I just went back to remembering. I haven't been in the room with John Maxwell. It's one of my goals to get back in the IMC room. I know, Tina, you do this on a yearly
Yeah.
basis, but for me, I
Yeah.
really miss it. And I think what I miss most is he has such great communication skills. that
Mhm.
he can communicate with 15,000 coaches about the DNA of John Maxwell and what he wants to see. And we're challenged to communicate the DNA with 10, 20 of my team members. And I feel like I just kind of went back to, you know, what he does in that room, how he impacts us. And almost brings tears to my eyes how he does that. And I remember the first time of being in that room and being impacted by his words and, you know, the things that he said. So I feel like maybe we don't, I think my blind spot when we talk about spots is not realizing the influence we have with
Mhm.
our team
Mhm.
and and kind of how important we are in the piece of this puzzle. I just realizing that.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, this has been so good, and I know we could go for hours just on communication. And like we said, we're gonna promise this is a 6-part series, and for this week it's focused on communication. And hold
Mm,
on to your hats because next week it's going to be focused on emotional intelligence, and that's kind of one of my
mm,
babies right now is really helping myself first, but also my team members to really build resilience because I think a lot of times people, the reason why they're not resilient, especially in this beauty industry, and they're not, what I'm hearing is not lasting past 3 years, is because of a lack of resilience. So we have blind spots
mm.
in these areas, and guess what? People do what people see. And as Christine said, we've got to model this. And so that's the goal. And we're just curious. We would love for you to drop it down below and share with us which one of these areas, one, two, three, or four, is your biggest blind spot. And it might be all of them. And that's okay, right? But what's your biggest blind spot? And what are you going to do to move towards that? What are you going to work on? It's got to be those baby steps, right?
Yeah.
To get there. So
Yeah, and we'll put it in the chat in the first comment below this. And
perfect.
yeah, so we'll drop it in that comment, and we would definitely, as Tina said, love to hear from you because we believe that leadership is a journey, not a destination, guys, right?
Yeah, that's
Amen.
So we say that all the time.
All
all
right.
right.
Thanks for being on with us
Until
live.
next week, right?
Yep.
Yep. Bye,
See you
ladies.
guys.